Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
My name is Jason, and you are at WordCamp Vienna 2025. And if you came to learn how to build websites, you're in the wrong place, because this guy here isn't going to help you build a website at all.
No, not at all.
Because he's a security community manager from PatchStack. And so Maciek here is going to show us how to not have a website anyone can visit. Thank you. Please give him an applause.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm going to talk today about, cutting the head of your WordPress. Because it's fun, right? And many people say that it's probably the future for WordPress. Or maybe not. We'll see in a moment. As you already know, I work at PatchStack. This picture is just a proof that it's really me, not someone in my place. I know that we are already talking about headless for quite a while, so probably most of you heard this term. Some of you probably even know the definition. How many of you know what the headless architecture is? Okay. But the truth is, it's always better to start with explaining it to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So if we want to talk about headless, first we have to talk about the opposite of this, so about the monolith. WordPress by default is a monolith because we have an admin panel there when we can add some data, edit it, add some pictures, tags, categories. And there is also a mechanism on top of it that allows us to display this data we just added on the front end. In case of WordPress, we are talking about the mix of themes and plugins. But with other CMSs, there will be templates, starter kits, whatever. So in short, we have a mechanism on top of something that allows us to put and edit data that shows it on the front end. And they are very coupled together, because that's another definition, another word for monolith, that it's coupled. On the opposite, there is the headless architecture, also called as decoupled. So we will still have the same CMS in which we can add some data, and we have the front end that is somewhere else. It's not directly connected with our CMS. This front end can be anything we want. It can be a JavaScript framework. It can be like Astro. It can be Next, Nuxt. It can be a Laravel application. It can be a mobile application. It can be some weird script written in Go or Rust. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they have to talk with each other in some way. That's why we have to implement a layer that will allow this communication between them. So we need to use some sort of API. As you already probably know, WordPress has a built-in REST API, and also, thanks to some kind of plugins, we can use GraphQL, either by using WordPress Engine's WP GraphQL or Leonardo Lozovic's Gato GraphQL, if I remember. Both of them are great, and both of them work. So this API allows our front end to talk with the backend. And while this example is perfectly fine, because that's how headless works, I find it as the worst example possible, because it only shows how we are trying to complicate something that is simple. And for the first time when I saw this image and I started reading about headless, I was like, okay, but why would anyone even want to do this? We are taking something that works and works very well, I mean, how WordPress works, and we are adding some additional layers to make it more difficult, so it doesn't have any sense. That's why now I will show you two more complicated examples that really show what power you can get thanks to going headless. First approach with, let's call it, one CMS to rule them all. So we have our beautiful WordPress with all the content, and this one WordPress powers our home website. It also powers all of our 10 landing pages and a mobile application. So imagine that something changed at your company, and it's time to update the About Us page. So if you go into our WordPress, you will go to About page, you edit it. After a moment, all of those websites that are getting data from your WordPress will also get updated. So you have, like I said, one CMS rule them all. It's much easier than managing, I don't know, like 20 separate WordPresses. On the other hand, the opposite example, imagine you have a website that is a hub that gathers data from different sources. So for example, you get posts for your blog from WordPress, because WordPress is really great for blogging, right? I mean, there are still people who think that WordPress is only good for blogging, but we know that's not true. On the other hand, you have a CRM, and then you have some clients marked as those cool guys that you would like to show on your website. So you will get the data from the CRM and display it on this page too. And also you have some database written in Notion because no one wanted to put it in WordPress for some reason. And you still can get data from it and put all of this data inside of one page. So all of those data sources are kind of equal to each other. And of course, you can also imagine an example in which you will combine this with the one on the previous slide. So you will start creating this huge web of connections. What can go wrong, right? And let's not forget, there is also something like a hybrid CMS. So the CMS that will be a monolith and headless at the same time, right? Because you can use WordPress to power your homepage as a monolith, and also send the data to some landing pages at the same time. And I'm here mostly because I really love Headless, because I think Headless gives you a lot of opportunities. It allows you to use WordPress in a bit different way. It's really cool. What I hate about Headless is how Headless is marketed, because it's horrible. I mean, there are like two main approaches about handling headless marketing. One is, this is mostly delivered by some headless CMS companies. WordPress sucks, use our great headless CMS. This is the one way you can do it. And the hosting companies that take care of headless hosting will try to convince you that if you're using the monolith approach of WordPress, you are old school, or maybe even not, you are old, your technology is very legacy, and so on and so on. And the moment you will convert to headless architecture, your world will become beautiful, clients will start buying your product, and rainbows, unicorns, and things like this. In short, they are trying to tell you that everything that is headless is amazing. But is it? Of course not. So right now, I'm going to go through some of the most popular arguments you can read or hear about switching to headless. And I will tell you if they are entirely true or not. So let's start with the first thing. You should convert to headless because of performance, right? Because we all know WordPress is the slowest one, right? It's not only slow, it's written in this horrible PHP, so it's double slow. And the moment when you will, according to some, convert to headless, it will become fast. And in some cases, it's true. For example, do you remember for the first time when Gatsby was popular? Everyone started converting their websites to Gatsby. And everyone was posting on social media, look, my WordPress is finally very performant, very quick. And it was, but not because they changed architecture. It was fast because they converted their website into static. And let's be honest, static HTML will always be much faster than dynamic PHP. Sadly, Patrick Posner isn't with us, but he has this plugin called Simply Static, and you can achieve static WordPress without changing architecture. You just install a plugin and push a button, and you'll have a static website. On the other hand, if you don't go with the static route, but you go with a more dynamic one, APIs aren't magically faster than normal database requests. What sometimes is happening is when we are asking the API, we are asking it for only really the things that we need. when we use WordPress usual with all the plugins, very often some of the database requests repeat itself. Sometimes they aren't fully optimized. But if you will start asking API for a lot of things that won't be that optimized, still, it might be slow because, it's the same WordPress. So in short, it's not that Headless will magically turn your WordPress into something more performant. It won't. It will be different. Sometimes worse. Another thing, security and maintenance. And so, of course, everyone will tell you that, again, WordPress is horrible because it has those millions of vulnerabilities and so on. And of course, it's not true. I mean, look, I work at PatchStack. I know how much vulnerabilities there are. Only 7,000 in the whole ecosystem last year. But it's getting better. And when they tell you that, use Headless, you will be finally safe and the maintenance of it will be much easier. So again, if you will take the static route, there is a chance you will, because hacking static HTML is quite difficult because it's HTML. But you need to take off WordPress from the internet to make sure that no one can connect with it. If you still have your WordPress somewhere online, because many people use it and then it's converted to static, you still have to maintain it. You still have to update it. You still have to make sure that no vulnerability is present in some of the plugins you have, and so on and so on. So you maintain it as usual. The same goes if you just use it in a server-side rendering mode because you're constantly pinging the API. So it has to be online. So because remember, headless WordPress is still WordPress. So you maintain it exactly the same. Also, when you maintain WordPress, you just maintain WordPress. Also, very often hosting companies help. Also, there's a lot of documentation. So we are quite familiar with what is happening. When you switch to headless, you are kind of going to a totally different world because you will have much more environments. Very often you will start connecting all the applications together. There will be API keys flying here and there. So there are new vectors on how some of your data can leak, can be published to others. And I'm not saying it's worst. Again, it's different. So probably when it comes to maintenance and security, you will spend exactly the same amount of time, only you will be on the totally unknown land, especially when you start, and you might make some new mistakes. Another point, simplicity. Because you won't be using this outdated WordPress anymore. You will start using some new, cool, fancy JavaScript frameworks that are so great. You just connect the API and that's it. So, again, it's not that simple. Very often, we as WordPress users are kind of used to the fact that we just write stuff, press publish, and it shows on the website. When we switch to headless approach, and for example, more with this static route, there is a huge chance we'll introduce some build steps, something that never happened before. So when you press the button, now you have to wait until the page builds itself. The flow changes totally. It's not simplicity, it's something opposite to it. Also, if you're depending on plugins, you have to be sure that those plugins have integrations with some APIs, with the REST API or the GraphQL one. And while the REST API is already something quite common in plugins, the GraphQL implementation, not so much. So it may turn out that to get this simplicity, you will have to write an integration and maintain it for your whole website lifetime. And again, I think it's the opposite of simplicity. Oh yeah, I have to drink water. I have to remind myself because in 10 minutes I will be coughing. Okay. So, a few slides ago, I told you that I love headless. And then I spent 4 slides just explaining how it sucks, right? Because I think that most of the companies that try to convince you to go headless use the wrong arguments. Mostly because, like I show in a few examples, they are from time to time kind of lying. One of the main reasons why you should go headless is, for example, freedom. Because right now, if you decide to use WordPress, you kind of become a slave of technology that WordPress uses. So if WordPress is built in PHP, you will go with PHP. If you would use some other CMS that is built, let's say, in Ruby, you will have to go with Ruby, and so on and so on and so on. With Headless, you can use any technology on the front. And it's very useful because, for example, if you have to collaborate with a great team that has great Nuxt developers, tell me what is easier, to ask them to learn how to use WordPress, or just to go headless, so they will build the front end using Nuxt because they know, and you will just give them the API. And this freedom is amazing on many levels because it can help you, depending on your company structure, depending on what technology is right now popular. You can just hire people that are available on the market instead of trying to convert people into technology that you want to use. So I think that freedom is one of the most important parts. Another thing is Headless was always built with this kind of replace with ease. You can replace some blocks inside of it very easily. For example, lately I'm writing a series of articles showing how to connect different headless CMSs with Astro. And Astro has this thing called the Content Layer API. And it turns out that just by editing one file, I can switch the front end to grab data from a different CMS. So by updating few lines, first it was using Floatic, then it was using WordPress, then key static, just by editing one file. The rest was as it was. So this replaceable part is really great about this. You have more options. I mean, it's not always a good thing, right? Because if you have a simple website and you have too many options, it always will become too complex. But if your application is already very complex, very advanced, and you feel that there are places you are limited by the monolith approach, Headless might help you a lot. Because by going headless, you separate all the data sources and you can optimize each of it. So in some cases, when normally you would feel that the CMS is kind of blocking you, the technology used is blocking you. Here, you have a lot more freedom, you have much more opportunities, you can do whatever you want. Also, I think that WordPress really has a great UI and UX. Almost everyone knows it, it's very familiar. Personally, I really like Gutenberg as a content editor. And a lot of people who are using WordPress, they like to use it because, well, it's WordPress. On the other hand, the developer experience of WordPress, well, it's not that great. I'm not saying it's bad, far from it, but it could have been better. So for example, that's why many developers prefer to work with Laravel or with some JavaScript frameworks because they have better developer experience. Thanks to going headless, you can kind of eat a cookie and have a cookie at the same time. Because your users will be still using the familiar CMS that they were always using, which is cool. And on the other hand, you can play around with this new shiny framework that will probably change the world, or you will have to remove it in a month. But you will have a lot of fun. If you will decide to go headless, there are a few things you have to keep in mind. And the first thing is something that I really want you to, if you would like to remember just one thing from my talk, remember this one. It is just an architecture. Because some people will try to tell you that headless is better. It's not. It's just an architecture choice. In some cases, it will work better. In some teams, it will better. But in some other cases, it won't work at all. Because, well, it's just an architecture. It's not a silver bullet that will solve all your problems. So remember, it's just an option that you, by validating all your business needs and how your team works, it's your decision that you have to make. Sometimes it will work, sometimes not, because like I said, it's just an architecture. Also, going headless with a simple site is a bad idea because you will convert your simple site into something more complex. But if your website is already complex, going headless might make some parts of it easier. Of course, there are also downsides because now you have to orchestrate all those moving parts. But in many cases, it can be better. But still, for simple websites, going headless, it's not a good idea. And again, we as developers very often have this problem that we build websites that we don't use. How many of you have built a website ever? Great. And how many of you use it, like every day? Not all of you, exactly. Yeah. Okay. But that's the thing. I created a lot of websites. And I think I only had one blog on WordPress. So I don't know it that well from their perspective. And very often when we think about going headless, we are already thinking, yes, we will use this cool technology and this cool tool and this and that, and it will be amazing. And we don't think about how it will change the life of people who are working with the CMS every day. So while we are very often really excited about introducing new technology, first, let's remember about the biggest consequences for people who are using it every day. So before thinking about switching technology, switching architecture, think about people working with it. So now I have one more drink. I should add one more emoji. So is headless the future for WordPress? It depends. Really, because there are a lot of cases. In some, going headless will be a good idea. In some, not. The fact that some big companies are using the headless architecture, using microservices, things like this, they're decoupling things, doesn't mean that it will also work at your company. Because I'm guessing there aren't much people that your companies are the size of Google or Facebook, right? Yeah, exactly. The fact that it worked at Google doesn't mean it will work at your company or with your flow. And should give you but should you give it a try? I'm not already moving that you should convert everything, but just give it a try. Again, yes, no, it depends. So first of all, very good. First of all, you shouldn't feel that there is some hype train that you are losing. Because like I said, it's just a technology. So if you feel you would like to give it a try and it has some business validation, yeah, why not? I mean, already there are some companies that are using it. You probably know TechCrunch, it's headless. The Times, NASA, companies like this use it. But this doesn't mean that you have to. Don't feel that there is some pressure that you should go headless. Also, because there might be something like this that you feel that, okay, something is not entirely right with my current setup, with my flow. I think it could have been better. Maybe if I switch to headless, it will be better. The truth is, remember, WordPress is great because of, it's great for much more reasons, but one of the most important, the huge and vast ecosystem of plugins, of themes. It's something that allows us to very quickly add functionality. Also the familiar UX. The moment when you switch into headless, you will lose a lot of plugins because not every plugin will work with headless. You will lose access to all those amazing and beautiful themes. You will probably have to build something on your own. You're only left with the familiar UI and UX, which is great, but still, you only have 1 out of 3. So if you feel that something is wrong with your flow, maybe it's time to give like something else a try, because WordPress was built a long time ago when no one even thought about headless architecture. We implemented the REST API at some point, and we allowed to use it as a headless CMS, but it was never built as one. Over time, there are a lot of CMSs that were built with headless in mind. For example, Strapi, Sanity, Flowtic, Directives, Builder, and many others. So maybe those would fit you better. I'm not telling that you should stop using WordPress. No, because WordPress or any other CMS is just a tool, and we always have to use a right tool for the job. And WordPress is not always perfect. So as those CMSs that I showed you, they might fit your needs, because I don't know what are exactly your business needs, and it might not. But it's always worth to try, because you can learn something new, and it's always cool to discover new things, right? Okay, so thank you. Before questions, I have a cool newsletter. I would be really happy if you would subscribe it. I write a bit about WordPress, but also about other CMSs, about other stuff. So yeah, it will be nice. So, are there any questions? I see there is a question already. I'm really happy. Because I forgot to tell Sander to prepare some questions, so someone would be encouraged.
My question is about custom blocks, blocks from the block editor. What is your suggested way? So
that's a great question.
We're exactly in the position currently. We're currently doing a relaunch of a company block, and we're considering to do it. So we completely do a custom theme, and we're considering to do it headless afterwards.
Good.
And the biggest question is really the custom blocks.
Yes.
Do we just provide the API, the JSON data, or do we do the rendering?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much the question.
In theory, you have two ways. One is the easy way, that you just import the HTML that you get rendered, and you just figure out the rest using CSS, which is a bad idea. But you can. If you don't have time, or you just want to kind of push it like this, that's totally fine. The better way is there is a plugin even by WordPress VIP that allows you to get the data of the content not as this HTML blob, but as an array data. And if you have the array data, you just build components, you just loop through it, and you just get all the data that you need. You take care of styling on your own. So just like this.
Thanks a lot.
Any?
Oh my.
There's no. I have one thing, but first of all, I want to recommend to all of you the newsletter from Maciek. First, I'm subscribing for a long time, and he also had a Polish version of this.
It was a long time ago.
Back in the days, and I'm subscribing for years, so I don't want to over compliment him, but I recommend you to subscribe because he's sending a lot of good stuff there. One thing I want to say also about the question before, about the headless and Gutenberg blocks and full-site editing too, I would recommend you to, I don't know, you're not listening, but hello.
Hello.
Oh, I'm just trying to help you. Yeah. I would also recommend you to check something out because I've been working with my friend on some project like this, and I would recommend you to check the Faust.js from WP Engine. I know WP Engine is not favorable in the current environment.
The evil corp formally.
Check Faust.js. What they did is they created a library to turn your Gutenberg blocks.
But it's just for GraphQL. Remember, it's just for GraphQL.
Yeah, you need to have like a GraphQL plugin installed, and then the Faust.js plugin, and you have out of the box all the blocks from Gutenberg you have, and full-site editing templates too, as Next.js blocks.
Yeah.
Just use them right in your Next.js app, and everything looks the same as in your Gutenberg, which is great because you have Gutenberg editor and Next.js headless setup, and it just like works like this, like out of the box.
And they mentioned something that they are working also on Astro implementation of Faust. So this is because I'm more from an Astro camp rather than Next.js. So. Oh, I see a question from the top.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That sounded really interesting. I only know Faust.js from when it basically did nothing. It was probably the first version or something. But my question was with Gutenberg. I'm dreaming of a solution where you have somewhere a headless rendering server, so you only have to write the component once. Because like what you mentioned, you would have to like write it once as a Gutenberg block, and get array data through the API, and then write it again in your headless front.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why, and I think we will have to use the WP engine name again. Because I really think that for usage like this, using ACF blocks is really good because you just create the blocks with only the data you need. Because very often those default blocks have a lot of stuff that is useful on the front end, like margin, paddings, backgrounds, whatever. But if you are thinking it from only the data perspective, not the visual perspective, you might not need most of it. So if you are just like building those custom blocks only with the values that you need, it's much more simple, much more readable. But I agree that it's still a bit of a workaround approach, but it works. I mean.
We did ACF flexible content and the GraphQL API.
Yeah.
Kind of the not nice looking way without a preview, but hopefully maybe we can get it working someday. Cool, thank you.
Any more questions around? Anyone?
No? Okay.
No?
Nothing.
Well, momento.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Maciek, I have a
cup or a bottle.
A head full.
Thank you. Is it full? Oh no, it's empty.
It's not.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you.
Please give Maciek a
round
of applause, and thank you so much.